Hello. Okay, today we're going to talk about conducting research and writing in various fields. We're also going to talk about ways of integrating quotes that are useful and helpful to you. Um, so let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the humanities. Humanities primarily deal with text. This would be fields like art, history, English, literature, religion, theater, that type of thing. Um, so you're dealing with works of art, you're dealing with literature, um, theory, that type of thing. You might be looking at everything from a work of art to a poem to a sacred text. Um, and so typical assignments are things such as interpretation, analysis, and critique of the work. Um, so as we look at the language of the humanities, um, the humanities typically use the past tense to talk about things that have happened in the past, but when they talk about what a text is doing or a text says, that's present text. So you would say, for example, Jane Austen wrote her novel in 1892, right? Wrote, past tense. In the novel, she says, now we've shifted into present tense because the text is deemed as saying the thing right now. Um, the uh, tech works within this field typically use an active voice as opposed to a passive voice. I actually got somebody in trouble for this because when I was first starting as a tutor in a writing center, 10 years ago, because I didn't understand this. Um, so we would say uh, Jonas Salk invented the vaccine for polio in 1955. Okay, whereas in other fields such as the sciences, they use past tense, or I'm sorry, passive voice. The vaccine for polio was invented in 1955. All right, so different types of writing, different conventions for different disciplines. Um, as far as first person versus third person, different disciplines within the humanities do different things. So uh, there's no real overall convention for this. Some different types of writing assignments you might see in the humanities: summary and description, uh, where you're basically it's an interpretive analysis, critique. Will use a lot of summary and description within the work. A synthesis that connects text together. Interpretation: this is the text and this is what it means. Or evaluation, saying this text does a good job of X. Okay. Now, as we look at the social, physical, and natural sciences, and I know that's where a lot of you are, very different, very different type of projects. A lot of empirical research, experiments, observations, surveys, questionnaires, a lot of first-hand data gathered from the work. Um, you will need to use specialized terminology. So you need to use the terminology of your field. Um, the individual doing the research is generally considered unimportant. So you have a lot of third person and passive voice. Um, and in these fields, you use past tense to discuss methods and present tense to discuss implications. So you would say, Jones, Smith, and Frank discovered that da 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 da, which means we can now do present tense, or we can the implications indicate, or indications would indicate that uh, bacteria grow actively within this situation. Grow being a present tense. Okay, so when you're discussing what's already happened, past tense. When you're discussing the implications of what happens, you use present tense. So some different types of assignments that you might see. Literature reviews, where you look at all the research that has been done and talk about it. Research or laboratory notebooks to record materials that you use in the order that you use them. A chronological list of procedures you followed and your results. Research or lab reports, which would be a detailed description of your research, including methods, results, and conclusions. There's a research or laboratory report follows very specific parameters. So you have a title page, which includes the title of the report, the instructor, the date of submission, the author of the report, and your affiliation. An abstract, which is a very brief summary of the report. Your introduction, which is the necessary background, brief review of other closely related studies, the purpose in conducting the research and the limits of the research. Your methodology section, which will provide information about who took part in this, the methods that used to collect information and record data. And you need to do this in enough detail to where your results are reproducible. And then you have a section on the results, which provide details of the outcome and graphics to show your data. A discussion, which provides readers the opportunity to basically interact with it, shows how the data you collect supports your hypothesis, as well as recognizing the limitations of the data, and relates your data to those of earlier researchers. And then in the conclusion section, that summarizes your findings and explains the implications of the research. Your reference list, depending on what style your field prefers, could be APA, ASA, CSE, and then any appendices that you may have. The other thing that I want to talk about is the hamburger method. And this is a way of constructing paragraphs to make sure that your data is represented in the best way. So if you think of a hamburger, you've got your top bun, right? And that top bun is basically, it's your topic sentence for your paragraph or your guiding sentence. Then if you have any quotes or paraphrases or summaries, that comes next. Think of that as your condiments. It's attached right to that top bun, okay? After that, you've got your take on it. This is your explanation of the significance. This is the meat of your paragraph, okay? Notice that, if you think of your meat, your pickles, lettuce, tomato, all that's a lot thicker than your condiments, right? That should be the bulk of any paragraph. And then finally, your last paragraph, or your last sentence in the paragraph, that bottom bun, transitions you from one paragraph into the next while still referencing what's happened earlier, okay? So it kind of winds that paragraph up. You don't have your condiments on the outside, okay? You should never begin or end a paragraph with a quote or with a summary or paraphrase of somebody else's ideas. You should always be the point of reference within your own work. You use other people, right? You don't want a dry bun, okay? That needs to be there, but it should never be on the outside. Have that contained within the work. That's it for now. I want you to please make sure that you're keeping up with your discussion boards and with scheduling your appointments with me. If you need anything, please go ahead and email me or set an appointment. Have a great day. Bye-bye.